for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Agajanian Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We have Lois Chiles and author Rachel Resnick in the studio today. Actress Lois Chiles was born and raised in Texas. She majored in history at the University of Texas in Austin. Now, Lois, how could a history major get into show business?
Well, my grandmother sent me to Europe when I was 19, and I met a guy on a boat, and we fell in love, and he asked me to marry him, and I realized that I was not marriage material at that point. Wasn't ready to be a wife, so I broke off the engagement, but I realized everybody else was getting married in Texas, and I wanted to find out what women, other professions that women could do. So because I wanted to be a working woman. So I decided New York had a lot of advantages in that way, and I talked my parents into letting me go to New York, and I was discovered in the snack bar at my college by Glamour magazine and asked to model.
Oh, so that's how you got into modeling.
Exactly.
Because I thought modeling came somewhere in your career. I didn't know if it was in Texas or if it took place somewhere else.
No.
So history had nothing to do with
it. I dropped history like a hot potato. Unfortunately, I did love history, but I had some money in my jeans, and I.
So how long did you model?
About 4 years, and during that time, a friend of mine, an actor, told me that I should go to acting class, and I think he really thought I needed therapy, but he didn't know how to tell me, so he said acting class, and he took me to Sandy Meisner's class. And nobody wanted to be my acting partner because I was a model, and so I ended up with this boy. Nobody wanted to be his partner either, and he had a friend down the street, and he said we could go there to rehearse, and I ended up at a cocktail party one night at this friend's house with Jerome Robbins and Tennessee Williams and Maureen Stapleton.
Oh,
and
that was the real New York that you had met right away. When you went to Sandy Meisner's class, did they have any qualms about taking you as a student?
No, Sandy was happy to take me. It was just that the other students sort of looked at me askance because they thought I couldn't be a really serious actress if I was modeling. So I spent a lot of time trying to prove that I could be.
But you can act. I know you can act because you've made a string of movies and you've been on TV and you've done stage. But so many of the models nowadays, I mean, we're talking a few years back with you, but the models nowadays really can't act, and it's a pity because they have maybe the look and the movement and those things that you think would put you on camera and work.
There's a big difference, oddly, between modeling and it doesn't seem like it, because when I modeled, I would imagine, I would imagine myself like I'm a wealthy woman, and I would do I'm a divorcee and I'm picking up, so I'd make up stories.
Modeling.
Yeah, I'd make up stories in my mind about what I was doing, and you would think that would dovetail into acting, but it doesn't, because in a sense you're making these stories up every second and they're changing constantly.
Because the camera's moving?
Moving, and you change, and whereas acting really comes from, an inside place. You have to find a place where we're all one,
But that's the thing. I don't think just because you're in front of a camera or because you can model doesn't mean that you can do that. Do you think it's a innate type of thing, acting?
I think it's sort of something that you have to do. I mean, it's something that you have to express. You feel a compassion and understanding, let's say, for a lot of different forms of humanity, and you have a need to express that through your body.
So that got you into acting class. That was
Right.
your first step. Then you started taking acting class. And then how did you get to your first movie?
Well, this cocktail party that
The famous cocktail party.
actually was the key, because Billy Barnes, whose penthouse apartment it was in New York, and that was the whole Halston era and all that, was kind of a really fascinating time to be in New York. And anyway, Billy Barnes became an agent 3 months later, and he called me and said, "Would you be my first client?" And
But not the Billy Barnes, the actor Billy Barnes.
No.
The little person Billy Barnes.
no, there are a few Billy Barnes. This is a different one. And 3 months later, I had a part in a movie called Together for Days, shot in Atlanta, Georgia, with an all-African American cast.
Oh, you're kidding. And
No.
you were the only...
The only non-African American.
Right. How could they do that? How could you do that, being from the South? Were you a little intimidated?
No, because it had always been sort of I'd always had a lot of issues with the whole Southern segregation thing, because I had a lot of friends that were black. I was raised by a black woman, and I just it never made sense to me, all of that. So maybe that's why I was hired. I don't know, but it was really an experience. And going to the movies in Atlanta, Georgia 30 years ago with all these African American gentlemen and me.
So you went, did they premiere it there?
No, but I mean going to the movies, because when we were not working,
you
we'd
would
go
go
to
out?
the movie. And it was interesting. But Ray Stark saw that movie, and because he had a meeting with the director, Michael Schultz, and so all of a sudden I got a call one day, "Do you want to be a movie star more than anything?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. The more than anything part is, what does that entail?" And he said, "We want you to come down to this restaurant and meet Arthur Lawrence and Sidney Pollack and me. We're casting for The Way We Were."
Oh, you're kidding.
So I did.
And then that, so to say, is history. The Great Gatsby, The Way We Were,
Death on the Nile.
Death on the Nile, Broadcast News. I mean, you've done so many movies and worked with great directors.
And
Do you have
great
a
actors.
special director?
I really, I mean, they've all been great, but I guess James Brooks would be he's really wonderful with actors and with play.
But he was your first director,
No,
wasn't he? Oh, he
Sidney
wasn't?
Pollack was the first.
Oh, Sidney was the first. He
Right.
did The Way We Were.
And he was wonderful, The Way We Were.
But James Brooks is very sensitive in a different way?
It's just different, I just enjoyed the way he would play with us, encourage us. He would tell us stories like do the scene as if something insane, bizarre. And then he'd say the next take you'd do it as if something else, and there would be a whiff left of the previous one. And he just played with us. He let us, color it, layer it, and it was fun.
One of the films that you did Speed 2 with Sandra Bullock, and you
Right.
did Curdled with Billy Baldwin. And we have a clip from that, which is very scary. So tell us a little bit about it. We'll play the clip now.
Well, the movie Curdled was about a group of cleaning ladies who cleaned up after murders. And I played a wealthy socialite. Billy Baldwin is a serial killer who's killing wealthy socialites.
Oh.
I'm a wealthy socialite.
Okay, there you are. We'll see that.
Okay.
I like your dress. It's elegant.
Oh. Richard's moving back in next week.
Really?
So we just have to stop.
That would make sense.
You know how great this has been for me.
For me as well.
Paul.
Would you like me to come over tomorrow night?
I don't think that would be a very good idea.
What's one more time?
And then that's it?
then that's it.
You know, France must be one of the most romantic places in the world. What was the name of that vineyard in Bordeaux you were telling me about? You know, that one where you stay in that little chalet? What are you doing?
This is not funny. I've never seen you in that kind of a position before. What were you doing on the floor?
I was writing his name and his name, because the cleaning ladies, then he stabs me and the blood goes over it, but later when they're cleaning it, it still stayed on the
They do
floor.
find you. He says, "Can I come over? This will be the last time." You didn't have any idea. It was the
No,
last
I was
time.
completely fooled.
Then he talks about being in France, and in true life, you were in France for 6 or 7 months.
months.
7 months. What were you doing
Good
then?
segue, Jen.
Thank you.
I was a Bond girl.
That's what I wanted to talk about. Good. I didn't realize you were a Bond girl in France. When you were a Bond girl, it must have been fabulous. You were one of the first ones.
I was...
Middle one?
No. I was not one of the first ones. I was with Roger Moore, and I was the first kind of woman's lib. I was Bond's concession to woman's lib.
Oh, I see.
I was the first one that would sort of be able to do some of the same things Bond could do.
Oh, so at that time were people, the women's movement kind of rebelling against Bond? It wasn't so
It wasn't very.
cool?
It wasn't cool at all. No, it was. I
Not
was very
fashionable.
conflicted about it, actually, because women were burning their bras and.
Oh,
know,
you were? You did think about it?
Oh,
Did it stop
yeah.
you for a minute?
I needed the work.
But did they rewrite it to make you like a really tough
No,
one?
it was that way when they were looking for someone like that, and when I read it, she was a strong girl.
But they kept getting strong. Then pretty
After
soon,
that,
all of
yeah.
it, yeah.
And
then
now
it's-
the most recent one,
could do better than
boy, I mean,
that was good.
the Asian one could kick.
Right. She was really great.
Yeah.
You've been talking about directing. We don't have much time
Right.
left on the show. Why would you think of directing?
Well, actually, I was writing a little bit, and some friends encouraged me to take this course, and I loved it. And it brought together a lot of different sides of me. I draw, and so I was able to draw my own storyboards, and I'm very calm in a crisis, and that's what a director really has to be. And I love actors so much, and I love story, and it just brought together all these parts of me, and I really, I've been working on a project, and we're developing it, and we're just about ready to take it out. And
Would you
get
be
money.
in the
No, I
project too?
wouldn't, no.
So you would be totally directing.
Right.
And now another segue. You draw. You
do.
hang out with a lot of artists, and I wondered if you do seriously work as an artist.
I don't know what seriously means. I'm really into it.
You don't have a gallery.
No,
Okay. But you really do love it.
I love it. I'm
And
dedicated.
Another friend of ours is very interested in the arts, Pamela Barish, who made
Right.
your outfit, and we thank Pam for today.
That's right.
And we thank you for
Thank
being
you
with
so
us.
much, Joan. Thanks
It
for
went
having
so
me.
fast.
I know.
Don't go away. We'll be back with Rachel Resnick. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and we're back with author Rachel Resnick. Rachel was born in Jerusalem and raised all over the world. She moved around a lot, and I'm sure that gave her lots of material to use for writing. She graduated from Yale and earned a master's from Vermont College. What helped the most in writing, Yale or travel?
Does it have to be between those two? A, B, or C?
Whatever you want. But you did travel a lot.
Yeah.
And
I moved around a lot as a child, and I think that's a great ingredient for being a writer or an artist, because you're forced to adapt to new situations and meeting all kinds of people, and you have to kind of have a center in yourself, but you also have to really sharpen up your observational skills so you can maneuver in a new environment.
Is that making friends, or was that important to you? Making friends where you were, adapting to your environment, or were
Yeah.
you enough? Were you enough for
No,
yourself?
no need for friends. I'm beyond that. Absolutely. And understanding different kinds of cultures, too. I went to high school in a little town in Alabama, and that was an extraordinary shift from all the other places I'd lived. Israel, I don't remember. I was born there, and it's fun to say, but I don't have any recall.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, it's fabulous. And if you ever want to go back, I'll take you back with me.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love Jerusalem and the old city. And your work is so the opposite of what that city is about, that it's interesting, except that you said one thing. You said that Los Angeles and Jerusalem are on the same, what?
Same
What are they
latitude.
on?
No, it's fascinating because there's a weird. They're on the same latitude, and that area of around Jerusalem and in 29 Palms are the only places where you have Joshua trees.
Exactly. And then is that why you came to LA, do you think? Do you think it was
Of
meant
course.
to be?
Well, I do believe in that kind of thing. I do believe that there are destinies, and you go places where there's a pull. And it certainly appealed to me that this is a city built on a desert. You know, the chutzpah of having green lawns when we're creating this out of, you know, it totally dovetails with the fantasy that this city promotes.
So, did you find what you were looking for when you came to LA?
Well, I think the fun of looking for something is that you continue the search. You may find one thing and then it slips into looking for something else. I'm very happy being in Los Angeles. I think it's an exciting city. I'm a huge booster, not, I think, in an overly positive way, but I'm a big proponent of the West Coast or the left coast. I think there's a lot going on out here, and a lot more that somehow, I mean, you talk about your show being cutting edge. I think that New York, lovely as it is, exciting as it is still looking toward Europe. And I always see this kind of Blade Runner futuristic shifting planes going on in Los Angeles. I think it's very creative, and it's looking toward Asia, which is much more the wave of the future.
I think LA is great. I mean, I'm a great Los Angeles person. I was born here. I went to school here.
Okay.
People think I'm an East Coaster.
Yeah,
but
you have that energy.
I have never wanted to leave Los Angeles because I think it's all happening here, and I think we get a bum rap from the New Yorkers because they know that we have something going here and they don't want to face it. So consequently, what you say, they face the other way, Europe, and we are very tied to the Eastern idea, not East Coast, but Eastern Asia and beyond. So
And beyond.
So you didn't come to go into show business, or did you?
No, I did initially. I mean, it's funny when you talk about what was more inspirational, Yale or travel, and again, I would make a name for CD, many things. But I was rebelling. I think that's an important element of being any kind of artist, against the East Coast, against that patriarchal system, Ivy League, the canon of English literature. You know, it's a little tiresome. Milton, okay.
But did you study all that? You had to
I did. I
all
studied
that.
English literature. I minored in film, and in those days, not that it's that, you know, but it was a while ago. It was rebellious to be interested in film, to come west. Very few people from college. They were all going to New York to work in investment banking.
And those were the people you were going to school with.
Yeah.
And the minute you finished school, what did you do?
Well, this was part of the inspiration for the book. I took off, drove cross country. I had driven back and forth many
That's
times.
what you did. The minute you finished,
yeah.
they went to New York.
Yeah, so of course I resisted that. I mean, the only people who were trying to recruit on campus were investment bankers in the CIA. So I thought,
Well, CIA's not bad for you.
well, that's true. I actually worked as a private investigator for a year, which was quite a...
See, I think that I was interviewing Dan Fonte one day, who's such a great writer, and he was an investigator. And all the things you're talking about build, I guess, what you can write about.
Oh,
and so here we are, go west, young, effed up chick. How did you write it? It's your first book?
It's my first book.
It's not a screenplay?
Well, I didn't write it as a screenplay, no.
But I mean, here you are, showbiz, Hollywood, and you didn't write a screenplay?
Rebellion.
Ah!
Well, I did come out here. The rebellion was to work in film, and then once I started working in it, I thought, this is much tougher than I realized, and a lot of the naivete just fell away, and I thought, you know, I could go various directions. I was treating it like an out-of-school film school, and I had all kinds of great jobs and fascinating experiences, but ultimately it wasn't really satisfying unless I had moved toward writing, producing, directing. So I thought, you know, I want to do something where I have complete control.
Did you, when you came west,
Yeah.
chick, this chick, did you start keeping a diary?
I'm not a fanatic in any way. I mean, I certainly am obsessive, I think, in the ways that many writers or artists would be. But as far as a journal, that's the life of a writer. If you're serious about it, you pay attention to what's going on around you, you clock it, you write it down, but not religiously or fanatically.
I see. Because I started reading the book last night, just very quickly, and it was like reading your diary. It was, to me, like reading about real places, real people, interspersed with a little bit of your thoughts. And yet they say, or some of the reviews say, that it was very poetic. And did you write it as a poetry type of thing or as a diary type of thing?
Well, that's interesting, but you didn't pick up, you didn't see it or respond to any of it as poetry.
No, I didn't.
See, the thing is, you write a book and then it's not yours anymore. It had control and then you let go of it, and it takes on, ideally, a life of its own, and it's open to, you know, different responses and interpretation. I certainly was very interested in shaping something in, again, a rebellious, not a traditional narrative, not a mainstream. I wanted to appeal. I think everybody has ADD in this country, attention deficit disorder. Well, I do. I don't know about you, but I wanted to try and wake people up or reach people with these kind of bursts of concentrated images and stories that would have a collage effect, that would kind of have a cumulative effect and would pay off when you were finished.
But
and the juxtaposing was important.
That's what I read. That's how I felt. So, but I don't have ADD. What is it? Attention deficiency?
Deficit disorder. Oh, good for you.
I don't have that. I can hang in with something and stick with it. Just like this show. I can hang in here with you no matter how bad it gets.
Right.
But I know you have to do things to get people's attention like this. Otherwise, you don't have them anymore.
Right. And it also interested me just because I think, again, with Cutting Edge, you're talking about, one of my idols is Flannery O'Connor. I don't know if you're familiar with her work, but she's extraordinary.
But you talked about a lot of writers in the West, Nathaniel West, and who else? I forget. Who
that I mentioned in the book?
Yes, writers from out here that you loved.
Absolutely. Well, Nathaniel West, I mean, frankly, no one touches that Day of the Locust.
Right.
But there was a nod toward European sensibility, I think, with that book, and there was also a concentration. I mean, it was pithy and it was punchy, and he was using poetic power and structure. I mean, the idea again of juxtaposing. This is such an odd city too. It's fractured, and the character's identity is fractured. So I was trying to reflect that in the structure of the book. And we create Los Angeles by where it's a car culture. So where we choose to stop becomes like these kind of connect the dot.
And that's how I felt. The other thing is, you just talked about the character. I mean, is the character you? Are you the person?
Well, you know, it's important to ask that question because it's always the first one that comes up with readings. It's how much is autobiographical? Is this your story? First of all, I think people's personalities are always in flux. I mean, that's the fun of it. and the mystery of personality, which is back to Flannery, who always talks about when you want to try and point toward what's off stage and the mystery. So I've answered in different ways. One is I can say that all of it is me and none of it. And both those answers are true, because if it's
the time in your life, or
well, because all writers. It's funny. Sue Miller had just written a whole response to this recently, I believe, in the New York Times. If you're any good as a writer, hopefully it doesn't read just like a journal. It certainly wasn't a journal.
No.
At all, at all. If you're any good as a writer, whatever you use, whether material is very close to the bone or completely fantasized, or that it's what you do to invest it with meaning, and it's how you shape it, and whether it becomes something bigger than you. And that, to me, is what's so exciting about writing.
well, you're excited about writing. You teach a writing course at UCLA, and if anyone wants to go take her course, you can go call UCLA and take her course. But the other thing with you, Rachel, is you want to be out there, and yet you've titled your book with something that people can't say on the air, or they feel funny actually repeating it. And I had your
Funny, haha.
people calling me saying, well, we've got this woman who wrote Go West Totally, and then they'd say effed up, and then the other person would say the word out. And so why would you choose something like that in order to be out there?
All right. Well, first of all, your assumption is that I want to be out there, but
right,
you
I'm
remember,
assuming that.
yeah. I mean, I don't know, maybe confusing, but in order to write, you're not out there unless maybe you're writing in a cafe, which many people seem to do. But you have to be very concentrated and isolated, and then you break out. So this is I spent a fair amount of time working on this book, and then this is a whole new phase. Like, woo, the flip side of being an author. Now I have to go out there and talk to people.
Okay, but then what about your title?
Well, if you're serious about what you're doing, that seemed to me to be the right title. It was the right title for the work. If you start playing around with messed up or screwed up, it doesn't have that impact. It's the book is written in a very Anglo-Saxon style. I mean, I was trying to not pull any punches and have a certain intensity, and it was a play, of course, on the Horace Greeley, Go West, Young Man, Go West.
Right.
And I was grabbing it, claiming it for a woman, so there was a feminist element and all kinds of things going on there. But I wanted to shake people up.
Well, you did really well. You shook us up today. The time is over.
Oh, okay.
So, thanks for watching today. Watch us next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles, and keep writing. We'll answer all of your letters. 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles, 917. And goodbye, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.